have a lot more painting to do. I didn't know this was controversial. The sun is out now. I cannot tell you with human words how excited I am. So now it actually makes sense. It's not completely done yet. Obviously, this space will improve and progress over the next few weeks, but I'm here. I'm nervous to shoot the first video here. I'm scared of all the variables and like the background is different, the sound might be different. I don't like change when it comes to my work and my routines. I like things the way that they were, so why the fuck did I move? I thought for today's video, I'm just gonna try to give you guys a life update. I'll try to answer a lot of the questions that I've gotten about the move, about the house, and about moving in general, and sort of what my plans are, like thoughts on sustainable living. But I thought this was a good video to do to sort of rip off the band-aid and do the first video. It doesn't feel so intimidating. So just a quick recap if you haven't been on my channel for a while. I lived in the city center in Aalborg. I think Aalborg is the fourth or fifth biggest city in Denmark, which means that overall compared to other big cities in the world, we are tiny. Aalborg is a city that is very close to nature, so you don't have to go very far out from the city center to see nature. And we moved about 15 kilometers north of Aalborg. We got the keys about 2-ish weeks ago. Me and my partner now live in this amazing 60s home that is really, really well kept. There's a lot of original details in this house, but there's also some work to do. And we also have some things we want to optimize in terms of energy efficiency, sustainability, etc. So we moved about 2 weeks ago, and my life since then has just been moving stuff. I know for a fact that I'm not a minimalist, but you really, really get the idea of how much not of a minimalist I am when I had to spend a whole week moving my shit. One of the questions that I've seen the most related to this move, right, has been about transportation, because we moved from the city center where everything is super well connected. You can bike and walk anywhere to anywhere around the city. And now we live 15 kilometers outside the city. So will we be needing a car? What is the transportation impact going to look like? And the thing is, when I met my partner, he already had a car. It's an heirloom from his grandmother, and he got it when she passed away, and he has been using it on and off, you know, not every day, but for moving things or going on a little trip to the forest, whatever. So we have used his car a fair bit ever since we moved here. It's really practical that there is one, and the car that he has is from 2003, so there's a lot of issues related to that. The main plan is here that we will use this car until it no longer runs, and we will find an electric model beyond that, after that. And obviously here in the beginning we have been using it a ton, and now we're going into autumn and then winter, and I do see in the future that we will be using this car more now that we live here rather than when we lived in the city center, right? Especially so during the winter time. But there are also buses, and if you have about half an hour, you can also bike into the city center. So whenever the weather is good, we will do that, biking. Otherwise, I've been taking the bus into the city, and that's also been really great. I know my partner, he biked to work today, so that is also still an option. That's still something that we're doing, so we don't use the car for everything every single day. There's about 4 kilometers to the nearest shop, so that's also really doable with a bike. There's a bus every half an hour, every 45 minutes on the weekdays, and every hour on the weekends. And obviously that is different to what I'm used to. That is the way it was when I was growing up as well, and I always hated that you had to plan out your day. But I was a teenager, I hated everything. So far, living here for 2 weeks, I don't mind paying a little bit extra detail to my planning, and so far it's been great. Anyway, there are also some concern related to the size of the house. It seems like there is quite a lot of rooms. I did in the past video do a little room tour so you can sort of see everything. And yeah, it's definitely bigger than our apartment. It's about 160 square meters, and our apartment was 90 square meters, I believe. So we do get a lot of extra space here, but this is both our living space and also my workspace, the place that I store all my equipment, my gear, the books that I sell, all that kind of stuff. And when we lived in the flat, on and off, I would rent out a storage facility or I would rent an office. And I really liked to have those things separate because it took so much space up in the apartment, right? It was impossible to be there when there were also books and I also had to work. And I like to have a designated work area and not just work from my couch, because then I will get nothing done. I think most people feel that way, that, you know, you have your desk and it's a designated spot. The house is also my office now. This room that we're in here is just gonna be for content creation. It's one of the bigger rooms. I'm really excited about it. And all the office, we have this big office space, and then my partner, he works at the university, but he has a smaller office space for when he works here as well. And both those rooms are also going to be guest rooms, because we live a little bit further outside the city. So for dinner parties and friendly gatherings, etc., people can stay over. So there's no rooms that are just standing there unused or like a waste of space. It's actually the perfect combination of rooms for our lifestyles and what we do and our jobs, etc. So that's also fantastic. This question took me by surprise a little bit, because I didn't consider this to be something other people had comments on, questions about, but apparently it's very different from what other people sometimes assume when someone buys a house together. So me and my partner, we are not married. It's not that we will never get married. It's just not in the cards. It's not in our plans. It's something that we definitely talked about, but it's not something we want to do right now. I've gotten a fair bit of questions or comments, I should say, concerned messages from people that are warning me against buying a house with someone I'm not married to. Now, this is extremely common in Denmark, so I don't know. I didn't know this was controversial, but it's extremely common in Denmark. We have a legal document that states that we both own half. We split everything from the deposit to the payments, everything. So if there's anyone that are concerned, don't be concerned for me, because we went through all of the details and the legal stuff with our lawyer, so it's fine, no problem. We each own half, we each pay half. Okay, in the last video I also showed you the amazing garden. I'm so excited about the garden, and right now it's a little bit wild, which I love that it is. We have these huge tall trees, we have these bushes, but there's also a fair bit of unused lawn space. And I don't like lawns, I don't like grass. It's just a tomb for biodiversity. If you have your whole garden and it's just a lawn, you have a monoculture. So obviously I'm not into that. Luckily, the majority of our lawn is also completely infested with moss, which I love. I love moss, both for biodiversity and for CO2 absorption. Moss is better. But there will also be gardening content next year, because I have so many fantastic plants and there's so many things that I want to build and grow. So there will absolutely, in the spring, be garden videos. I would love to have a little space where I could go out and I can cut and harvest my own herbs. I've never had that outside, and there are some herbs that just generally thrive better outside rather than inside. So we're gonna do that. Okay, but I think one of the more interesting things to talk about when it comes to moving to a house and all the decisions that come with it, all the parts about my private life, relationship, like all that is great fun. But one of the more interesting things to actually talk about is the difference and impact from living in an apartment and a house, because obviously that's different. I have a whole video about the best, most sustainable way to live, which, spoiler alert, is in a massive, modern, energy-optimized apartment complex with hundreds of others, close to public transportation, powered by renewable energy. And coincidentally, the idea of having to move out of the city onto a farmhouse, rural living, that kind of thing, the idea that that is more sustainable than living in the city is absolute bollocks, because living in a house is just more energy consuming. Why even move from my little energy optimized apartment into something that is, when we look at the raw numbers, more unsustainable? Well, one of the things that I think is a very important point in the video I made about the most sustainable place to live, right, is that the most sustainable place to live very rarely considers people's mental health. And one of the more unsustainable places to live, like in a house outside the city, tends to be better for mental health. Sometimes. At least I vaguely remember there being some kind of point. Well, not everyone can live in an apartment building, not everyone can live outside the city. And wherever you choose to live, because there is, when it comes to what is right and what is wrong, what has a bigger impact and what doesn't, comes with a massive amount of variables. Some of them I would like to talk about now as well. Because what we want to do with this space is to take as many steps as possible to make sure it is as energy efficient as possible. That means energy optimized windows, insulation, that kind of stuff. But also getting our energy and our electricity from renewable places. Down the line, we would also like to look at how we can be self-sufficient, or at least more self-reliant when it comes to energy. So solar panels, that kind of thing. Looking in those directions, which very rarely is possible when you live in a flat. So that is one of the upsides that I see here as well. And this is something I very rarely talked about, but it's something that has annoyed me for years, and it's the renovation trends that we see on social media, right? Where we take beautiful old homes and we turn them into new modern hellscapes. This home, when we went and looked at it, and as I said in the last video, we only actually went to see this house kind of for fun, to get the conversation going as to what do we want, or what are some of our needs and wants when it comes to a house, right? So getting the conversation going. And this house just had so many beautiful, fantastic details. It was very well preserved, looking at how 60s homes are usually treated. And I would really love to take part in conserving some of this architecture, some of the history that comes from these old homes, because so many of them are renovated beyond recognition or torn to shit. I hope I'm explaining it correctly. I don't want it to feel as though you can only be sustainable in an apartment, or you can only be sustainable in a house. There are multiple nuances and variations, how much or how little sustainability you can practice, right? And there are so many opportunities to do things here that I wasn't able to do in the flat. But if we're gonna be really cynical about it, does this place require more resources than an apartment? Yes, it does. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it doesn't, because it does. But there are so many other things that we can do here, also in terms of sustainability, that I wasn't able to do before. I see I have to sort of figure out what to do in terms of lighting here though. We are getting acquainted with this space, but before we end this video, let me show you what I've done with the place so far. Also, I hope this video is making sense. I just want to answer your questions and be as honest and frank as I possibly can, realizing that there are contradictions when it comes to sustainability and morality and mental health points, etc., etc. There's so many nuances here. So I really want to include all of those in the discussion, in the conversation, while it's still really vulnerable, of course. But to say that sustainability doesn't play a factor when it comes to my decision making in terms of this purchase, that is also not true. There's so many things that I want to do here, and it's gonna be so fucking fantastic. So this weekend we got the closet up. This is from the apartment, and it was an absolute bother to get out from the 4th floor and into this office. But it does so much in terms of improving the sound quality in this room. And it's also now where I keep all my, nicer vintage things. I'm still sort of working on my little office corner, but this is where we're at so far. There are gonna be several gallery walls in this house. We have also done a lot of stuff in the living room compared to last time you saw this place, where I think the living room was just bare, right? Okay. It's sort of a nice little conversation pit that divides the living room into 2 bits. The couch here is fantastic. Actually doesn't feel too big for this room. So now it actually makes sense that this rug looks so much like grass, because now it's sort of communicating, referencing what is right on the outside. I also curated this space a lot more, also got a lot of the small bits, small books, etc. out of the way. Now I just love the way that this looks. So I think it's just gonna stay this way. The sun is out now for the first time today. Oh yeah. I have never claimed that I'm a minimalist, and this is why. So this is all the art that we haven't hung yet. But here is a little space that I have tried to curate amidst this massive chaos. So I took my bookshelf, put all our books on it, color coordinated it. Absolutely love it. And in the middle of the living room, we have the massive mirrors for the closet in the office. Hello. I remember one of you guys asking me, please say that you're putting the genitalia themed art back into the bathroom. And obviously I'm not gonna disappoint you, because yes, we have 2 restrooms now. We have like our bathroom, and then we have a guest toilet, and the guest toilet is gonna be all erotic art. It's gonna be all the erotic art that I own crammed into there. And I'm also gonna paint it. I actually just gave it the first coat the other day. I'm gonna paint it more because it looks like shit now, but I wanna show you the color. I don't know how it picks up on camera, but it's a light olive green. Please have in mind that this is a work in progress. I have a lot more painting to do, but this is honestly so true to the decade this house was built in. And yes, I'm gonna put the Tom of Finland poster up in the guest bathroom, obviously. The kitchen and eating area is still absolutely crazy, and not much has really changed here. We just used this room as a temporary parking space for every little thing that we don't know where to put. This is still looking gorgeous though. I'm in the process of creating a little corner over here. I put up my vintage mirror and I think it speaks very well together with the red KitchenAid. But we're gonna make a nice little space over here as well. Obviously it's filled with shit now. It's coming. And this is our bedroom. Still a little bit chaotic, but there was this massive pile on the floor and I've put everything into the closets now. So, control. And then last Friday, I painted this section of the bedroom. I wasn't really in favor of an accent wall, but the thing is, flat wall just suddenly ends there, so it also feels weird to just leave it. And I like this way more. In order for this to not be too beige, we're sort of using a beige and light blue color palette, and hopefully I can thrift a comforter or something sort of in the same color palette at some point, but I'm keeping my eyes open for it, but it's not like a need to have, so it's one of those things that I'm just putting on my list that if I find it someday I can use it. Also fits really great together with the other art in this room. So obviously there's still a lot more that needs to be done, and I've sort of hit myself on the head a little bit because I have been so unproductive doing this entire move, but I'm trying to take everything slow and let myself get accustomed to this space. And once I do, once I'm back in my old routines, I have some videos lined up that I think are going to be really interesting. And I'm also going to do an additional deep dive with some more information on apartment versus house living, present a lot of the variables and nuances, and let's have another conversation about this because I think there's a lot of stuff that we can learn, and no matter where you live, there's some things that we can improve upon. There's some things that we should avoid. There are some things that are great to work towards. Those kind of tools, no matter where you live or what your living situation is, those are things that we can work with. So I think that could be really fun and interesting to do. Let me know if you have any additional questions or what you would like to see on this channel in general. I'm all ears. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye.